Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is the fourth day of Sukkot here in the Holy Land, and let us begin by giving thanks to God. Hodul Hashem ki tov ki lo chazdo. God is keeping this world going and keeping us alive for free, huh? So let's do something for Him. Let's give charity. Charity saves from all bad things. Charity brings all good things. Be kind. Now we're celebrating the holiday of Sukkot, and the holiday of Sukkot is called Sukkot. It's called Sukkot because we sit in Sukkot. But there's one part of the holiday that's not so noticeable. It's not even mentioned in in the world, right? Even by the non-Jews, it's called the holiday of tabernacles. Who knows what a tabernacle is? But in any case, the Lulov and Etrog are not mentioned, except in the Torah by religious Jews. Of course, everybody knows. There's a big, huge marketplace, huge business done with Lulov and Etrog, because there are a lot of criteria, legal criteria, according to God in the Torah, what exactly a Lulav has to be and what exactly a Etrog has to be. They should be beautiful. It should be nice. Here, once again, I'll bring you my etrog. Let me just bring you my etrog. Just please bear with me 1 minute, because I got a really beautiful etrog this year. 1 second. Oh, here we go. Thank you for the delay, for waiting. Here we have an etrog. Beautiful. Look at this. Huh? Etrog. Just to give you an idea how big it is. See, this is my head. This is putting right next to it. It's a nice, big, beautiful etrog. And if you look, see, that's what an etrog has to look like. See? In America, this would be very expensive. In Israel, it cost me about $100. Beautiful. That's the etrog. So you'd think that the etrog is very beautiful. It's the most beautiful of the 4 types. And not only that, it has fragrance and taste, which represents Jews who do the commandments. That's fragrance. And taste is the Torah, corresponds to the Torah. So you figure you would make a blessing on that, but we don't. When we take the Lulav and Etrog, we make a blessing on the Lulav. And the last few days we've been explaining why. And it's not just a how do you say let's say how do we call it, literary analysis, or religious. They have a good word for this. What do they call it? Religious exposition or something like that. This is talking about reality, like we've talked about before, that God creates the world. So God is creating you. So you're being created by the God who is telling the Jews they have to take a lulav and an etrog on the holiday. And why is God telling us we have to take lulav and etrog? That's not so as important as your eyes or your nose. Right? There's how many people in the world? 9 billion people in the world, and they all have hearts and eyes. That's more alive and more important than a lulav and etrog. Take a lulav and etrog, and after the holiday you throw it away. You can't throw a person away. So people's lives are more important than lulav and etrog, right? So you say, listen, people's lives are certainly important. There's no doubt about it. They're of utmost importance, but lulav and etrog is even more important. Lulav and etrog does not lessen the importance of human life. It increases them. Why? Because we know from lulav and etrog that God cares about the world. That's why he told the Jews that they have to do these things. And just like human life doesn't really make any sense, why does the heart have to be why does it have to be a circulatory system? Why does it have to be a nervous system? Why people can be just like robots, right? Robots don't have circulatory systems. They have electricity or whatever makes them go. No, you Jews have to have People have to have a nervous system and a respiratory system, an endocrine system, and a digestive system that make electricity, and that's it, right? No, God makes people very complicated. One of the parts of that complication is people are born with a purpose. Every human being is born with purpose. Responsibility is the essence of life. Responsibility to what? So the Jews say everyone has a responsibility to the Creator. And Lulav and Etrog shows how the Jews express this responsibility to the Creator, doing what the Creator wants, even though it might not make any sense. Right? But also, human anatomy doesn't make any sense. No doctor, right? So learning doctor raises his hand, says, "Excuse me, professor, can you explain to me why in the world does the heart have to be in the chest? Why does it have to be in the chest? Why not put the heart and the brain together in the head?" He would get kicked out of school, right? That's ridiculous. That's just the way that God wants it. The same thing with Torah and the commandments. The only thing is Torah and commandments, you don't get kicked out of life, but you have questions on Torah and commandments. Okay, so now we have the question. If it's really so important, so let's look at really the details over here. One of the details is that the main aspect of these 4 types that we take, let's just get another picture here because I'm always happy each time I succeed in getting this up. Lulov and Etrog. Okay, here we go. So every time I get these 4 types, here, see, we have a human being. No, we have a human being actually taking the Lulov and Etrog and shaking it. Here we go. Yes, we're going to do. All right. Yeah, so he's explaining his 4 types. It's a little picture over here. Here we go. Very good. Here we go. Here's Lulav. This is good. Lulav, Etrog, Hadas, Arava. Not such a clear picture, but it's good. Here, see, oh, very good. Here, Lulav, Hadas, very good. This comes from what had Esha Torah or something. Excellent. So these are the four types, right? These are the 4 types. So the main one, though, is the lulav. We make a blessing on the lulav. Why do we make a blessing on the lulav? Because it is higher, because it moves. Remember all the things that we've learned. Very, very beautiful, meaningful things. Now, says the Rebbe, 1 second. We just finished saying that the one thing about the lulav is that it has a taste. And the taste, that represents Torah. So, but the fact is the lulav does not have any taste. It's just leaves. It covers, the lulav are leaves that cover over the dates. Why not take a date, right? And put the date on it. We can learn all sorts of learn all sorts of deep secrets from a date, right? It has a pit inside of it, and it does have a taste. So as it says, the ninua from Torah, that a Jew moves when he learns Torah, because the lulav represents the Torah. The movement from the Torah doesn't mean nor their hiluch beli gvul without any. Oh, we did this. We did this. 1 second. Let's go to the next page. Next page here. Remember, we said you always have to increase learning in the Torah. You have to, and also there has to be questions and answers. You also have to always check yourself and improve your understanding. It could be that you didn't understand everything totally. So it's always moving in the Torah. Okay. Alpi anal, according to what we just finished saying, how important the Torah is, how the Torah should make us move, how the Torah has to be constantly increased, how the Torah is the wisdom of God right now. It unifies us with God. That's why we move. According to all these things that the Torah, that the lulav represents the importance of the Torah and the reasoning of the Torah, the logic of the Torah, the wisdom of the Torah that unifies us with God. According to this, we have to understand that the lulav has the people that have the learn the Torah because it has a taste is hat mendach lechior. We should have taken not the leaves of the palm tree, nor the tamara atzmo, but the palm tree itself. I'm sorry. The fruits themselves, the tamara, the fruits themselves we should have taken. Fruits have a date that has the qualities of the lulav. that we attributed to the lulav. We said the lulav only has taste, but the lulav doesn't have any taste. The lulav is the leaves that cover over the date. Dates have taste. They have taste and no smell. We should have taken a date. Well, in their peri, because in that fruit is for there is a taste, but there is no smell. But by the kapot tamorim, but the leaves don't have any. So why do we have to only take the leaves and shake them? Why not take a date itself? It's so hard. God could just said take one of the dates, put the 4 types together, and instead of having here this long pole over here, we'll just take a date, put a date, maybe get a nice date, a big date. Huh? Why not? So it says, Vigret Frieda, like we said before, is the Indian, the whole idea of taking the 4 types, the lulav and the etrog, is the Isachdus, is unifying all of the different types of Jews. B'chdei, in order, as in Einyid, that one Jew, Zol Zich Vereinigung, that one Jew, each Jew should unify with every other Jew. As Dar Verstehen, so therefore, every Jew, therefore, has to sort of surrender their own egotism a little bit, staying in bittel, and to the creator of the universe, the creator of ego. So every Jew has to have a little bit of sort of, how to say, humility in order to have unit. Valuation, because egotism and selfishness, gaiva, this prevents us from unifying with another Jew. We're talking about the lulav and the etrog and the hadas and etc., representing 4 different types of Jews, and all the different types of Jews, and all of them unifying. And we said that I'm just talking to Mr. Lack, who just came in, that the lulav represents Jews that have Torah, because Torah corresponds to tam, smell, taste. Torah corresponds to taste, tam. Tam also means reason. And the lulav has a taste to it. Says the Rebbe, the lulav does not have a taste. The lulav are leaves that cover over dates. Dates have a taste. Why don't we use a date as one of the 4 types that we shake, right? Instead of this stick, the lulav, which is just is leaves that are unified, we should have put a date there. That has taste. Lulav doesn't have a taste. It says the reason is because we're trying to unify, stress the importance of unity among the Jewish people. And unity in Jewish people that's what unifies them. Every human being is created differently, but especially the Jewish people. The Jewish people have this very the big tendency to argue. They love to argue. Why do they love to argue? Because each one has a different opinion than everybody else. We see that one of the main book of Judaism is the Talmud. Without the Talmud, we have no idea what to do in Judaism. We have no idea how to explain the Torah. The main book of Judaism is the Talmud. The Talmud has all the laws in it. It's filled with arguments. From the beginning to the end, arguments. Rarely is an opinion stated, and that's it. That's the law. Once in a while it says, halacha l'Moshe miSinai, right? So it's a law that Moses was given on Mount Sinai. You don't ask any questions. But almost everything else, like 70% of all the laws there come from as a result of different arguments. Arguments are a good thing, but they're arguing because they really want the truth. In other words, they are totally devoted to the truth. Therefore, in Judaism, we have the 4 different types, and so they are different. We want them to be different, but we want them to unify themselves. So in order to unify, you have to be devoted truly to the truth and be willing to say that, okay, you're right. You're right. And so that's also in spirituality, in richness and spiritual, just like the different 4 different types of the lulav and etrog, they all have to be different, right? So also, but in order to unify themselves, they all have to be surrendered to the one thing, to do a commandment, to God, the creator. So it says that's the way it is also in spiritual. Azoy is also begashmi, so it is the way it is spiritually, so it is physically. In Yeder, from the Dalet meaning, in each one of these 4 different types that we have in the lulav and etrog, darvzayin nirmas, there has to be hinted the idea of surrender, was durach them, which by means of this idea of surrender, harmony, the desire to be harmonious with someone else, Durch them, by means of this, can sein these actors, there can be unification of all of the other types. By Yemen, darf men beikar barvernen as the air is air zal haben bittel. By the hechster, where is the most stressed that there has to be this idea of surrender, harmony to others, harmony, the desire to be hold on to your uniqueness, your special uniqueness, but there has to be harmony with others, right? You ever see an orchestra? You ever go to a symphony? Each the instrument has his own unique purpose, but they play in harmony. So on one hand, there has to be the uniqueness, right? A violin has to sound different than an oboe, and an oboe has to sound different than a tuba, and a tuba has to sound different than a kettle drum, whatever. They all have to sound different. But on the other hand, they have to have the desire to be harmonious. The same is also with the Jewish people. Each one is different, but there has to be that inner desire to be harmonious, to hold yourself back and not to do what you want, but to do what is necessary to do. That's the desire. That's the desire to want to say control yourself. Unity is above everything. Unity is above your uniqueness. Your uniqueness, so to speak, your being unique is only there in order to add on to the harmony. But the main thing is the harmony, is the uniqueness. Where should this be stressed more than any other in the four types? And the highest of them was Gresser is, the greater one is, as mer is alul tzahaven yeshus, the more the more, how do you say, you have a tendency to be an egotist. It's a known thing that you say, if you want to test a person's personality, who they are, is give them success. Maybe the best example you can see is marriage, right? A couple, before they get married, so each one wants to make a nice impression on the other way they're meeting, especially in religious Judaism. The couples meet beforehand, right? They meet and they talk with each other. So the woman dresses as nice as she can, and she's very kind, and she's very polite, and she's very this. And the man also very same thing. He's very, humorous and this, until they get married. Once they get married, all of a sudden each one has success. He has found that, you give a person success, now the real personality comes out. Are they really interested in harmony? Are they really interested in unification? Or are they interested in being the boss? Are they interested in now they have success, right? Take a person and give them nicest guy in the world, give him money, all of a sudden he becomes a monster. Make him a boss. Make him a boss over people. Suddenly you'll see who the person is, right? When he was one of the guys, he was the nicest person in the world. All of a sudden, take the private, you make him into a sergeant. He starts ordering around people. The highest of the four different types is the Lulov. That's the people who learn the Torah. They become the big rabbis. Now we've got a problem. Is the person going to be affected negatively by his success, by his greatness, by his highness, or not? It says there we have to stress the idea of humility by the highest. When Alts Mer Darfman is by him, Bavarnan, it has to be stressed by him even more, this idea of humility. The big rabbis. The Rebbe, therefore, is in the etrog, was is their chashuva, the estrog, which is the most important of the four. It has tam and it has smell. Is oichen sein nemen, the name is also hinting at keeping away from egotism. The four letters of etrog is al tavaeni regel gaiva. King David said it in Psalms. Please don't bring, God, please protect me from even a little bit of haughtiness, of selfishness, because David was a king. And King David could do anything he wanted to. He had to always watch out. Al tavaeni regel gaiva. They say that these were the last words of the Baal Shem Tov. Al tavaeni regel gaiva. The Baal Shem Tov, his life was successful because he had succeeded in serving God. The last moments of his life, he was afraid of coming to egotism. So the etrog, the name etrog, hints at being aware and beware. What is it? Watching out from egotism. Und Eben Geret, like therefore etrog, because it's has the best qualities, in its name is hinted at. Don't let it go to your head. Don't let it go to your head. You have to be unique. You have to be great. You have to be wonderful, talented, but don't be an egotist. Don't be selfish. Don't be haughty. Unvi oiben geret, like we said before, as in Lulav, and in Lulav there is a quality, afilu oiv, even higher than the etrog. Davka dermid, which what that ered that nor tam, it has main thing of the Lulav is the taste, namely the Torah, and it's not stressed so much the idea of the commandments, which is corresponding, which is represented by smell, fragrance. The Rebbe, therefore, darf oich in Lulav, the Lulav, there has to be some sort of a hint, a special hint to us, oiv them in a bittel, on the idea of surrendering yourself, surrendering your urges, your impulses, to be humble. It says that King David was the most humble person in the world. Moses, it says, was in the Torah, it says clearly was the most humble person in the world. But so is King David. King David said, I am a worm, I'm not a person. The higher a person is, the more he has to work on himself to have this idea of surrender. The same thing with Moses. Moses' main thing was the Torah. And Moses worked on himself that he was the most humble person in the world. That's hinted at by the Lulav. The Lulav is the highest of all. It represents Torah. And it has to be stressed in the Torah together with the Torah, the highness, to be stressed also at the idea of humility. And this is expressed by the fact that we don't take the fruits of the date tree, we take only the leaves of the date tree. How do leaves teach us humility? How? A mensch is geblieben zu the leaves, because the leaves, they just protect. The leaves only protect the fruit. So we're seeing that those who learn the Torah, they are great, but they're trying, the whole idea is that they're trying to protect the purpose of the Torah, which is to benefit all mankind. A mensch is geglech, and the person, people are compared to a tree. Unseichel, and intellect. Was is besteht, which is the main quality of man. Right? Man has intellect. Animals have a certain type of intellect, right? A dog can be taught to do, horses can be taught, because you say, oh, it has human qualities. But human beings, the main quality of a human being is intellect. People, they can change, one person can change a whole entire nation of people, millions of people, just with ideas. Is and therefore the intellect of a man is compared to a tree. It says the faith of the man, faith is like the roots. We'll get to this. The fruits of a human beings are they're mentioned is and that's the fruits are like intellect. The chazayin and the ikar maila, from a point which that's the main uniqueness of a tree, is if they have fruits. A fruit tree is a whole different thing than just a regular tree. A regular tree maybe it can give shade, but a fruit tree gives shade and it gives fruits. That's a whole different world, right? A fruit. Besonders is seichel gegleichen zu a tamar. Especially intellect is compared to a fruit. Was sein inyan, the whole thing of the fruit, like, because that's is taste. Dates have a taste. It's very interesting. If you have a date, they have a very good taste, dates, but they have almost absolutely no smell. Nitreach, not smell. Vika, now, like we said before in the midrash, we said Veis the tamar, the date. This corresponds to Torah because it has taste and doesn't have smell. The oleum, the leaves from the date tree, the blotter, the leaves from the tree, besteht zer mila, the whole thing of the leaves are in them was beschitzen, they protect the fruits. Azoy is oich, also it's the same thing with intellect itself. Intellect. The emes from emeskite, from the svur, the truth from an idea, the maskana, the conclusion, this is the fruits. When the Shaklavataria and the arguments going back and forth in any idea that you have, which they remove all the questions and the conflicts and the wrong ideas that there are in this idea. Thus is the blata, that's like the leaves that cover over the fruit. In other words, the fruit, a tree, a man is compared to a tree. The fruits of a tree, that's compared to the intellect of man. There has to be leaves. The main thing of intellect is that it comes to conclusions. The leaves of the tree are what protect the conclusions that you make intellectually so that they're true. They're connected to the truth. That's the idea of the leaves of the Lulov. But Teva Adam, the nature of man is, as the tainu, that the pleasure from intellect is then their mensch, when a person, their grechent, reaches a conclusion. But when he gets a conclusion, right, all of a sudden, I got an idea, right? Eureka, they said it. The oisphere from their sphora, the conclusion and the culmination of the ideas that he has, it comes to an Easter mention when a person halt in mitten, when a person is in the middle of thinking, going back and forth, either before he came to van Anderkleben, from choosing and Orapgenumen and bringing down, and removing all the questions and the contradictions to his ideas, hat nit kein only, he doesn't have any pleasure. He's thinking, he's worrying. Hat Yisurim, he has, you say, it tortures him. Was their inyan is for him nit clear, it's not clear. Right? Especially you see this in all, ideally, that's what university is supposed to be. You go to university and you learn the conclusions of different people, economists, the scientists, physicists, right, doctors, medicine, right? Originally they thought that this cures a disease, and then they discovered, no, this cures the disease. Right? They thought the universe went like this, that gravity is caused like this, and they realized that gravity is caused like this. Clarifying ideas. When does a person get pleasure from his ideas? When he finishes it. He finishes it, writes a book. I got, he's happy. A person is not satisfied until he comes to a conclusion. And therefore is nit shaykh, it's not relevant that he could have any egotism. He's still not sure of his idea. And thus is the remez, that's to the idea of the lulav. The lulav, right? A man is compared to a tree. The fruits of the tree are the conclusions that he comes to intellectually. The intellectual, that's the uniqueness of man. The library is filled with them. I remember I learned in the University of Michigan. I used to go to the University of Michigan, the library. It was like the library, at least back then, it was like, 10 floors high. There was stories underneath the ground, packed with books, aisles and aisles and aisles and aisles of books. People that came to all sorts of conclusions. 99.9% of the conclusions were not correct, but they came to conclusions. People even learn these books in the university, right? Says, but the ideas, that's the fruits, the going back and forth that a person does in his mind in order to come to conclusions. That's what protects the fruits, protects the ideas that they should be true. That's like the questions that a person asks. In Torah, it's the exact same thing. Torah is just intellect, ideas. If you want to come to the right conclusion of what the ideas are, then you have to have back and forth. Just take a look. There's these religions that they base themselves on the Torah, right? Christianity, it bases itself on the Torah. And it learns the Torah, and they come to totally wrong interpretations, totally wrong. Every single sentence that they interpret is just totally wrong, but they believe in it. Why do they believe it? Because there's no arguments, right? A person stands up on the podium and he says, everyone's guilty, everybody's this, whatever, because it says so in the Bible. It doesn't say in the Bible, but nobody questions him, so he goes, okay. That's why the whole Talmud is just arguments, going back and forth. Because arguments clarify the idea and make the fruits really, really edible, good. Same thing with the lulav. The main thing of the lulav is learning Torah. And why don't we, that's taste. Why don't we take the date? And because the date, that's the end product. Here we're talking about learning Torah. This is the leaves. The leaves, that's what protects the ideas, namely the arguments going back and forth. Men darf alamo, we always have to know, as men halt erst beim alim, that we are always like the level, we're always at the stage of the leaves. Any idea that you have in the Torah, you have to always check it and see, is this really right? Is this really true? Look in the Talmud, you see these great men that they had the power to raise the dead. They had the same questions as you and they had the same arguments. And this, no matter how high you are, no matter how deep you are, you always, tief men zol zukommen, no matter how deep and great you are understanding the Torah, darf men wesen, you have to understand as does that this says no katipa, it's just like a little drop in the ocean, und noch weniger, even less than a drop in the ocean of wisdom. Warum? Because the Torah is arucha me'eretz mida v'rachava miniyam, because the Torah is deeper and wider than the world, than the ocean, than all being. It's a sentence in Job. Look at Job. And when you, as soon as you realize that whatever you know in the Torah, even what you're sure of in the Torah, is just a little tiny drop in the ocean of wisdom, as men halt irsh, that you're always just in the beginning. As soon as you know that, this shalom, this takes away any egotism or selfishness which might affect your learning of the Torah. Adarabba, das was men weiß, that what you know, vi men is veit, that you know that you're far away from the ultimate goal of the Torah, the ultimate, how do you say, the truth of the Torah. As Ruth Tamarois, this brings about us humility and a lack of egotism. And a lot of times you see this, right? Really good teachers, really good rabbis, right? The leaders of the congregation, you see they're very humble people. They're very humble people because they know that, true, they know it more than everybody else, right? But what they know is just a little drop of what the truth is. It says now we know what the laws are, but we don't feel the godliness of it. That's what it says, that in the future Moshiach is going to bring a new Torah. It's not going to be new laws. The laws will be exactly the same. The Torah will be exactly the same, but we'll feel godliness in every single law that we do, in every single Torah that we do. We'll feel the godliness that we're missing. We're scraping the surface. We know what to do, right? But we don't know how to feel. We don't know the godliness in it. Right? We take a lulav and an etrog, but we don't feel that God wants me to do lulav and etrog now, and that God reacts to what I do. We don't feel that. And that's the main essence of what the Torah is. So no matter what we know and what we learn in the Torah, we have to understand that even if we know more than everybody else, where Moses knew more than anybody else, he talked to God directly, nevertheless says he's the most humble person in the world. Why? Because he knows that little bit of awareness that God gave him of Torah, right? That's just like a little drop of the real essence of what the godliness of what the Torah is. Is das is oich the remes. That's the thing of what it says kapot tamorin. Kapot means kafotsu men geboinden. Kapot means to join together. How do you say? You bind them together. Kafut. Is nit kein abgesunder. He's not separate and doesn't separate himself from the people and not separate from God. Kapot means learning Torah makes him more humble, makes him smaller, not bigger. Nor is durch dem bittel, by means of his surrender to the Creator, zu neuf geboinden. He unifies himself and unites himself with God. Und davke durch dem bittel, only by means of the surrender that the Lulov gives us to remind us, learning Torah should make you small. The Lulav is the highest of all. Yes, it's the highest of all, but what's high over there? The leaves, not the fruit. That you are, when you learn the Torah, you should be like the leaves of the Lulav, that you're always open to argument. You're always open to understanding more. From Lulav. Is there hechster It's true that the lulav is the highest, varum, because vos mer er is bittel, because the more humility a person is, as alt hecher der grechen, he can reach higher and higher, and kum tzu makaven the halacha, he can have the law and get the law, the truth of the law. And that's why in the Talmud, there's the people that were in the Talmud, their whole essence was just fear of God. They were just totally surrendered to God. They didn't want to make any mistakes, to get exactly what it says in the Torah correctly. V'imam Razal, like the rabbi say about Beit Hillel and Shammai, they argued. Beit Hillel. This is like right before the destruction of the temple, after. As to leave them, because Hillel, it says that they were humble and they were they had humility. It says the law was always like them. That God helped them. God helped them and made the law like them. So Lulov stresses the idea of surrendering yourself, your ego, to the creator of the universe. One second, what do we do over here? Let me see this. Did I skip something? Oh, here we go. Zion. The hara, the teaching from this is like this. 1 second, 1 minute. Oh, I gotta make this video look. The teaching is as follows. Mendarf learning, we have to learn. Talk about the lulav. The lulav, we make the blessing. The lulav is learning Torah. We have to learn Torah in an ofen from lulav. What does it mean, like a lulav? Abgeben sich, surrendering yourself in ganzen totally to the Torah, when you're learning the Torah. But be'et der Vereinzigung mit Torah, when a person is united from Torah, soll nit trachten, you should not think, when you're united and learning the Torah, you shouldn't think about kein andere Sachen, nothing else, just sit and learn the Torah. And der mit, by means of this, is meint men nit blois the Talmidei yeshivos, not just people who sit in the yeshiva and learn, or people who have devoted themselves to learning Torah all the time, big rabbis, but rather, wie gesagt früher, like we said previously, as alle daled, meaning that all these four types of the lulav and the etrog, they have to be unified. They have to be unified with all of the other Jews. If you're a lulav and you learn Torah and you're the greatest, you're the highest, but the commandment is to take all the other types together. They should be so unified, as jeder sug, that each and every type, the etrog and the hadas, for mug and the milas, receive the good qualities of all of the other types. Thus, this means even those Jews which are like arava, which arava has no taste, which is Torah, or smell, which is the commandments, even those Jews, darfen by zay, zayin zmani, they have to have set times to learn the Torah. They're unified with the lulav, like the lulav. Learn Torah, learning Torah in an open and away from unified, total unification. When the zmanim, the times when they learn Torah in such a way, poil, and it brings about as they zalon aroiski, and they should go away out from their own stand, their own, their own egotism. Go out of who you are. You're a big businessman. You're just not nice. I'm going to sit and learn with a little child because he knows Torah. I don't know anything. Yes, that's right. Sit and learn. Admit it, that as far as everything else, I'm superior. I have more money. I have more experience. I have more more maturity, everything, but I don't know anything about Torah. So humble yourself a little bit and sit and learn Torah. As ezels bayim zahiluch. Therefore, if you humble yourself, humility means you open yourself up to the creator of the universe. Therefore, you have the ability to go without any limit. Therefore, you can elevate all of the other things as well. Like we said, when you shake the lulav shakes. The lulav is the Torah, is the godliness of the Torah, the connection of your mind to God's mind. That's what the Torah is. that shakes all the others. It makes all the other four types, the other three types, also that they move also dry meaning. When kiyum mitzvahs in doing also, it affects your doing of the commandments. Biz as oich de avoda, even the service of inyani harishus, until even the things that you do, the regular mundane things you do, right? You dress yourself in the morning, you go to work, you talk to people on the streets, you're even everything that you do, right? Everything you do in life, you eat your meal, you this from all the ways you have that you do in the whole entire day should also be affected by the learning of the Torah, which is moving, and humility. The hatchala from them. Now, humility doesn't mean that you're a placemat. Everybody walks over you. Humility means that you don't think that you're superior to anyone else. It could be that what you're saying is correct. You have to be assertive. You have to be brave. You have to be happy. But on the other hand, you shouldn't be an egotist. Don't think you're better than anybody else. Everyone is created by God. Everyone has something special that you don't have. Be open to that. And the Torah should make you even more open. The hatchala, the beginning from everything is working, haravan, fartifan, deep working, and deepening your mind in Torah, and to apashala, and to increase learning Torah. Yelin alatag, that every day should go. 1 minute, here we go. Higher and higher. When a person works hard at learning the Torah, as you have the promise, God promises you, as yagata, that if you work hard, as matzata, you will find. And not only that you will find means that you will find in a surprise, like you find $1 million laying on the street, it's something you didn't expect. Nit lefi erech hayigia, not according to what you work. You work hard, you'll get a reward incommensurate, totally incomparable to what you did. Mitzeta, it'll be like finding something. Via mitzia, like finding something, was as behesach hadat, is something you didn't expect. Und durch them, by means of this, vetmen sof kol sof, you will in the end come to the revelation of the inside of the Torah by means of the Mashiach, which Mashiach, it says, the coming of the Mashiach is also the idea of a Metzia. It'll be in a surprise, like it says, Matzati David Abdi. Coming of the Mashiach will be something so good, it'll be a surprise to even the biggest people that think about Mashiach day and night, and they wanted to come. We learned all of the Torah, the ideas and the Midrashim and everything about Mashiach and the Zohar, what it says about Mashiach. But nevertheless, when Mashiach comes, it's going to be so good and such a surprise, and it's going to show us new to godliness in every letter of the Torah that we never expected such a thing. Was does gate? This is talking about the Mashiach. Matzati David. I have found David, my servant. It's like something you find, right? You discover. Was is by Hesach Hadas, and this is a thing which we never expected. We weren't prepared for. When the Yanyanim Oivelcha Menhat Itzt Geharvet, the things which we now work hard at, on Ganum and Blois of Bechina Galui, we can only get just the skimming the surface that we have now of the Torah. Vet Mendach Zocha, we will merit to verstehen, to understand. Oich also Zer Tamim, also the reason, the deep reason for all the commandments, and the deep, infinitely deep meaning of every word of the Torah. Tamia Torah, what says the reasons of the Torah, this will all be revealed now by our work, and when the Mashiach, the Bias Mashiach Tzikenu B'Korah Mamash, when Mashiach comes very, very soon.